Hi, Guy. I did start it, guys. It's not working. Can you just check?
I can't get in. I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to get in. Oh, wait, I'm connecting now.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, just wait the meeting house will let you.
Yeah, okay, I'm admitting you. Okay.
Thanks. Are you in the meeting? Can you make your comments?
Okay, I'll.
Just so that I can.
Okay, let me try that now. Okay, thanks.
Hi, Nicci. Hi, Gerry. Gerry, can you just hi, Gerry? Can you change your Zoom name to your actual name? Otherwise, I'm going to see Laureen Janssen.
That's my wife.
Oh, okay, okay. Do you know how to change?
Actually, I don't.
If you click on your, let me just see if I can
rename.
Okay,
sorry?
I got it. I rename it.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gerry. Right. Nicci, Gerry, I can see you look good. Nicci, can you just chat to see if you can hear you?
Can you hear me?
Fantastic, I can hear you. Right, sorry about the banging in my background. I have urgent roof repairs that are happening, so I won't be speaking for long. I'll do the intros and I'll turn my mic off when it actually comes to the actual seminar. But thanks to you guys. Thanks for being very willing to participate in this. We don't know how many people we're going to get, being a long weekend, and because it's the first time we've used Teams before in the previous webinar, so we could get an idea of people that were coming in, but Teams is not very user-friendly sometimes. So we've moved to Zoom for this one to see how it goes. So we're hoping we're going to get more people, but given it's a long weekend in South Africa, yeah, we'll see what happens. Just in terms of ordering, I mean, had Nicci, you going first and Gerry, you second. Are you happy with that ordering?
Sure.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great. And Nicci, you also showing a video. I mean, usually it works, but sometimes people can't hear it, but that's nothing you can do about it. It's their own settings. But so if they can see it, at least, I suppose that's what matters. Fine. And then you can always just narrate it.
And it is, yeah, it's got subtitles, so it's nice to hear it, but you will be able to follow it.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I actually also have quite a long video because I asked some of our coaches to record a short video so that it's not just me speaking, but also them speaking.
Okay, that's brilliant. So we have time. So we have like an hour and 15 minutes, just under that, because it usually takes a few minutes to kind of get everything going. And we will then, obviously, the two of you will speak. So, I mean, if you want to do more than 20, 25 minutes, I think that's fine, just as long as we've got about 20 minutes at the end just for questions. And we are, the good thing is we are recording this. I hope you don't have any objections to it, so that we will post it to the SaferSpaces website, and which means that other people will be able to access it at a later stage when they want to. Yeah. So any questions from either of you?
No, I think I'll just, I've got a presentation, so I'll just share my screen at that point, and then when I'm done, unshare again.
Okay,
yeah, the
fantastic.
for the video, yeah.
Okay,
but I
fantastic.
think that's only that.
Okay, well, let's then we can just, everyone can just kind of chill for a bit whilst we give others 5 minutes or so to get in. I just want to check from Lamise's side, who is the Safer Spaces one. Everything good from your side, Lamise?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for agreeing to present today. Hi, Gerry. How's Daisy and Laureen?
They're coming. They want to see you.
No.
Yes. Yes, they were asking for you and for Daisy. Come show yourself. Don't be so shy. This is Laureen, and this here is our soon-to-be born daughter. It's 10 more.
Okay.
It's 10 more days.
Congratulations! Wow! Congratulations, guys.
Are you guys in South Africa or in Germany?
No, we're in Germany.
Okay. Okay. Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Laureen is excited, but she could say she also says it could happen now, today, or tomorrow, whenever.
Hopefully okay. Hopefully not during your presentation now, but we will understand if you have to go.
Yeah, she said already to our daughter, it's a timeout now for the next 2 hours. So
okay, thank you.
You can join in the afternoon.
Guy, from my side, it's not allowing me to co-host. I sent you a WhatsApp, so you'll just have to. You're on mute, Guy.
It's got me as host, so it's fine. I just was, in case something happens to you, I mean, I can make you, let me just see. I can, oh, it's not giving us, it's the way it's set up. Okay, so you can only allocate hosting rights. Okay, that's fine. But it's in the actually internal settings, you can change it to host, co-host, but it was fine. I just wanted to be able to, in case something happened your side or with me admitting, just, okay. So, I mean, I can give you back the hosting if you want to, but I'm happy to stay with me.
Okay, I don't mind. Okay, thanks.
Great. All right. Well, we'll just kind of take a few minutes and give others an opportunity to join. So I'll just mute my mic now and turn off my video, and we'll come back on in 1 minute and 2-3 minutes. Okay. See you now. Just a welcome to those of you who've joined us. My name is Guy Lamb. I'm with SaferSpaces and the Safety and Violence Initiative at UCT. I'm moderating this particular webinar today. Just to let you know, we're going to give the others a minute or two more just to join us. So just bear with us if you don't mind. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're at 12:45. This is the time we do to start this webinar. A number of other people have joined us, so I was a bit concerned that we wouldn't have enough people, but we seem to have a nice group at the moment. 13 of us in total. Hopefully more will join us. Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Guy Lamb. I am with the Safety and Violence Initiative at UCT and also with SaferSpaces, and I'm facilitating this webinar this afternoon. I'm not going to speak for long because I've got urgent roof repairs happening at the moment, so there's banging directly above my head. But welcome today. The title of today's webinar is on building youth resilience. And we do have really two wonderful presenters today. We've got Nicci van der Merwe from Ways for Change, and we've got Gerhardt from Bomb Combat. Both of them have been running really interesting interventions, working with youth over for many, many years, doing interesting interventions, learning from those interventions, adapting those particular interventions. So without any further ado, just also to kind of give you a bit of an introduction to those who haven't been part of these SaferSpaces webinars before. SaferSpaces is an online platform. It is a collaboration between the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services, which are in South Africa, along with various other civil society organizations. And as the Safety and Violence Initiative, what we do is we have a contract that's funded by GIZ to keep SaferSpaces going with content. And this year, so we've tried to make it a lot more interactive. So there have been webinars happening almost every week. We have working group, expert working group discussions, which we've just brought to an end, focusing on the white paper on safety and security. But also it's a space where practitioners and researchers and individuals with an interest in crime and violence prevention can make contributions to the website. So if any of you want to have a look at SaferSpaces and feel that you'd like to make some sort of written contribution, or if you're running an organization or involved with a particular organization that does violence prevention, safety promotion work that's relevant to South Africa, please do make contact with us, and we'll gladly include your details on SaferSpaces or profile your particular organization on SaferSpaces. So without any further ado, I'm going to kick this webinar off. We've got two speakers. Nicci van der Merwe from Ways for Change is going to speak first. And she's also got a bit of a video to show. Then after Nicci has spoken, we'll invite Gerhardt from Bomb Combat to speak. And once he's done his presentation, we'll then open up for any comments or questions. So we have just over about an hour and 10 minutes to go. So I'm going to hand over to Nicci. Over to you, Nicci.
Thank you so much, Guy. Thank you for having me. And welcome everyone. As Guy said, my name is Nicci van der Merwe and I work for an organization called Waves for Change. I'm responsible for our monitoring, evaluation and learning. And yeah, I would like to share with you just briefly what we do as an organization. We offer what we call surf therapy. So let me just share my screen with you. Cool. Let's move this. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so just as introduction, then I'm going to show you a short video clip from one of our senior coaches called Panellists. But just as an introduction, we use surfing as a sport, as a hook, as a challenging new activity that lots of the children that we work with have never done in their lives. We use that in combination with a mind-body therapy program to offer a community-based and youth-led and child-friendly mental health service in some of the most underserved communities in the Western Cape, as well as to communities in the Eastern Cape. And we do this through providing safe spaces, and we see safe spaces as both physically and emotionally safe spaces, as well as caring and consistent mentors, and those are our surf coaches / mentors, and then a weekly surf therapy session that children come to once a week. And with those active ingredients, we aim to give children skills to cope with stress, to regulate their behavior, regulate their emotions, build healing relationships, and make positive life choices. So I'll just show you a short video clip of Panellists. She's been with us for many, many years. and she shows and defines what we say that we use caring coaches or consistent adults in these children's lives.
The infrastructure in my community is very bad. Most people live in shacks. There is poor access.
Nicci, we can't actually see the video. We're just seeing the presentation at the moment still.
At a young age of 11.
Give me a second. I think I know why. Sorry.
The joys of screen sharing on Zoom. It's never the easiest.
Screen sharing. Let's. You're right. It's because I've shared only the presentation. So let's just do this quickly. New share, and we want to share this one.
Okay, we're seeing a different screen now. See videos.
And let me just go back to where is the video? Ah, give me 1 second. Okay. So let's just do this. Share screen. So I'm wondering, and now? Can you see it now?
We can see your file sharing screen.
Okay, so it still doesn't show. Just give me a second. So actually what I should probably share is.
You know what the easiest thing to do is, but it's about you just have to input it into your PowerPoint presentation. I think that's the
whole of my screen. Yeah, I'm trying to see where screen. And now, oh, but why is this not going to the actual video? Videos. No. And what do you see? Let me just see. Yeah. Now?
There we go. It's working now.
The infrastructure in my community is very bad. Most people live in shacks. There is poor access to clean running water. Kids are introduced into gangs at a young age of 11. There's a lot of gang violence like shooting, drugs, and there's a lot of violence against women and children. Parents are often unemployed, meaning there's no income in the household, and a lot of children drop out of school. My name is Annalisa Mhloli. I am a 25-year-old. I am a senior Ways for Change coach and a mentor to children in my community where over 1 million people live. My community is very overcrowded. I have grown up surrounded by violence and faced adversity myself. I know that this has on children when they are growing up here. Access to mental health services is very low in Khayelitsha. At Ways for Change, we work with teachers, social workers, and community members to tackle stigma. We talk about the impact of stress and trauma on the way we behave and learn. I am very passionate about changing attitudes in my community, as most people still think mental health is about being cursed or bewitched. There is not even a word for depression in my language. It's a curse. This community referral network I helped build then use the indicators we share to refer children most in need of support. Most referrals come from schools in the most underserved areas. We work with children who have experienced repeated trauma like rape, domestic violence, and drugs like tech being used at home. These children are referred by local hospitals, clinics, and social workers. We pick children up from school or other pickup spots in the community. When they get to the Ways for Change site, they are very excited to be at the beach and see their coaches. Our Ways for Change culture is inspired by Ubuntu: protect, respect, and communicate. We sing and dance a lot, bringing fun and energy to every session. We like to celebrate that side of our culture together. Children from my community are looking for a sense of belonging, a tribe for them to be part of. Activities like surfing are difficult, but allow everyone to take part at their own level.
Learning to surf for me was like mastering a new skill that I did not think I was going to be able to do. When I started at Ways for Change, I couldn't even swim, and the ocean really scared me. When I'm in the water or on the board, I tend to focus on the paddling, the staying in the right position on the board, but I fall off all the time. Falling off the board is part of the fun, because if you don't fall off, you'll think you're a perfectionist. And I believe there's no such thing as perfection.
I see the waves like the challenges in my community. These challenges will either eat you up and spit you out, or you will learn to ride them. At Ways for Change, we just use surfing as a hook to give children a safe space and safe adults. We share activities like Take 5 and the Power Hand. These help them to self-soothe, gain control of strong feelings, and think before they act. They can use these tools at home and at school, but they first practice them at the beach. Surfing helps children to regulate their emotions. It gives them another option from joining a gang and helps them to feel better about themselves.
Hardly anyone I know has health insurance. Stigma makes it less likely for families to attend mental appointments at the hospital or clinics. At Ways to Change, as coaches, we have our own DB psychologists that help support us in delivering surf therapy and meeting children's needs. Ways to Change coaches represent diversity in their culture, their language, and their gender. We give children access to support that they need in a fun, child-friendly way that's close to their community. I hope more young people like myself can be supported in delivering an essential child-friendly program for mental health support for children across South Africa and beyond.
Cool, and let me just open this again. I haven't watched that video in a while. I forget actually. She says almost everything that I planned to say, but it's so nice to hear it from a coach. So maybe just a bit on where we started. We were founded in 2009 by still our founding director, Tim Connerby, and he is originally from the UK and came to South Africa to do something else, but he's a keen surfer, and he went surfing a lot in Masipumalele and in Hout Bay, and children just came and joined him, and he had a truck and a couple of broken boards, and he surfed with him, and he then started realizing they're coming to him with things to talk about, and they're asking him for advice, and it kind of grew into pulling in youth from the community that can assist children and listen to what they have to say and help them think about how do I bounce back when things go wrong in my community. So it really grew from that, and at the moment we have got about 1,600, a little bit over actually 1,600 children that come through our program on a weekly basis. And like I said, we've got the 5 sites, 3 in the Western Cape, which is Muizenberg, Khayelitsha, and Hout Bay, and then we've got 2 in the Eastern Cape, Port Elizabeth and East London. Sorry, it seems this is in the way of the, I don't know if it's for everyone in the way, but that's fine. Hide. Anyway, our service is really for children in communities where there's a lack of access to lots of services. And we know it's in communities where children face chronic adversity and chronic violence. And let me just see what the chat says, sorry. Oh, okay. This repeat exposure to this chronic kind of stress and adversity really results in a toxic stress response that children use to cope in these situations. And this toxic stress affects the part of their brain that helps them deal with adversity and that helps them develop the skills to be resilient. And we try to teach children to have new skills to deal with situations that they face every day. Our children are aged 10 to 16, predominantly, that we work with. And then we often get asked why surfing. Surfing, number one, is fun. It's adventurous. It's a sport that a lot of children have not done before. It's also in the ocean. Historically, a space in South Africa that was only for elite target population or target group. So a lot of people didn't have that kind of access to the beach and to surfing particularly. But also it's a difficult activity that children can do at their own pace. So we don't force children to surf at the back line when they get there. Some children don't even want to go in the water when they get there initially. So every week there's small wins and they all get celebrated. So children can really grow and experience a sense of mastery and achievement at their own pace. But also there's a lot of research that shows aquatherapy or therapy or activities in the water, and specifically surfing, have got allows people to really cut out everything that's going on around them, and they have to focus on the water and the waves coming, and it really provides an opportunity to clear your head and think about what is going on in your life and how you want to respond to that. And then when we say surf therapy, the things we mean are these 5 pillars that's part of our program. So connection to consistent adult support. So we know that a lot of the children we work with have got maybe absent carers or absent parents, whether they're physically or emotionally absent. We know that's something that children face in the communities where we work. So we try and provide them with a consistent caring young person that they can look up to, which are their coaches and their mentors. Access to a challenging new task. Like I said, surfing is maybe something, or swimming in the ocean, that a lot of them have never done. Access to a safe space. So while we're responsible to transport children safe from their schools to the beach and back, and making sure that the actual physical space where we're facilitating our program is safe, we also train and support coaches to make sure that that space is an emotionally safe space, and that children can bring their challenges to their coaches and to their peers that they've met through surf therapy, and they can discuss them and discuss ways how they can overcome some of the challenges they face. And then teachable moments is our coping skills curriculum. So that goes with the surfing. When children come to the beach once a week, they spend a bit of time on the beach where they get taught a coping skill or a self-soothing skill or a decision-making skill, and they have an activity that goes with that in the ocean where they practice that skill. And then connection to new opportunities, training and employment. Once children have gone through our year-long program, they get access to a surf club that runs on Saturdays, or we connect them to junior life-saving courses. We work with other partners that work with first aid or with learning about the CNSRI. So there's a couple of opportunities that we connect children with once they've gone through our program to have some kind of ongoing support. And then this Annalisa spoke about, and I thought it's just important to mention, is the banana culture at Waves for Change. It really underpins everything we do, and it's around respect, protect, and communicate. And I don't know how many of you know what the surface shaka. It's got a slightly different meaning for surface, but at Waves for Change we show this when we say bananas, and it's both the surface shaka that shows the sense of community that surface create, and it's this community that children belong to when they come to the beach, but it also stands for, this part of it also stands for children to remember, protect, respect, and communicate. So even if they only remember that when they are with us at the beach, or if they only remember that when they're back at home where they face challenges, if that guides their behavior, then we know it gives them some kind of skill to respond to negativity and to violence in their communities where it's positive and safe for themselves. And then this is, I won't go into detail with this, but it's really just like an overview of our curriculum. It's in 3 phases, and like I said, it's a year program. So it runs, it's about 10 months because 2 months in the year is give and take holidays. But the 3 parts of the curriculum is create belonging. So it's really when children come to the beach, is first to create that safe space, get to know your coaches, get to know your the other children that's in your group. Cope with stress and self-belief is really when we teach these kind of skills to be resilient and deal with difficult situations and deal with emotions that come up and you don't know how to respond to them. And then the last one is create a purpose. So that's the last part of the program where we really help children. When you leave Waves for Change, what then? How do you take what you've learned into the years after you've been in this year program? So that's the curriculum our coaches facilitate with the program. And then just a little bit about our coaches. Obviously, there's a lot of active ingredients in our program, but our coaches is one of the key ingredients to our success. It's quite a nice quote that one of the coaches said, on a previous occasion, I came to Waves for Change to help children, but in doing so I've healed myself. The coaches, like Annalisa said, come from the same communities where our children come from. So they face the same challenges on a daily basis. They've grown up in the same spaces. They know what it's about. A lot of them are have gone through so many difficult things, and they had to find ways how to deal with it. So they're such good role models for the children. But we also know that they need a lot of support from us as a support hub, because they absorb so much of what children bring to them. So they are in 2-year learnership with us. It's really a stepping stone into further more permanent employment. Part of their journey with us include being trained as coaches, as surf coaches, as mentors to facilitate this mental health program, but we also do further personal development. So in their 2nd year with us, if they're interested in becoming a lifeguard, if they're interested in studying, we mentor them through that process, that when they're ready to leave us, they've got a next step in place. Just out of interest, we work with a 1 to 7 child to coach ratio. So there's never more than 7 children for 1 coach on the beach. Coaches also receive what we call a coach pack. They're responsible for about 20 to 30 children that they need to steward through the 2-year program. They're responsible to have one-on-one check-ins with children. The majority of the program is facilitated in a group setting, which is great, but we also acknowledge that sometimes a safe space means a safe space between you and someone you trust. Coaches have got very specific children they require to look after. And then, like Annalisa said, they do weekly debriefs. So we work with community or child psychologists or counselors who once a week visit our coaches. They're external and they listen to coaches both on a professional and personal level. So if there's difficult situations a coach needs to deal with in their personal life or with a specific child in the program, these counselors talk them through that. And then this is just out of interest. I thought to share this a little bit. We obviously do a lot of M&E work to learn from what works and what doesn't work in our program, and how children and young people experience our service. And we've, I think over the past 10, 11 years, put together, I think, quite a strong M&E framework that learns from the ground up, and we try to do quick learning. So we've got systems in place where there's at least once a week visits to sites to see what works and what doesn't work, and that gets fed back to the support hub. And if something doesn't work, we try and adapt the program as soon as possible to make sure we continuously meet the needs of children. But this was quite an interesting study we've been doing over the past 3 years, and we just finished it last year, using heart rate variability as a measure to look at our program. So it's the first time we've used a physiological measure as opposed to using self-report surveys or qualitative data tools with parents and with teachers. And this really just looks at children's ability to respond to difficult situations and stresses, their body's ability to respond. And it's really either the fight or flight response or a calm down, the parasympathetic responses, to be able to calm down, think before we act, to turn down the volume on really strong feelings. And it was a very interesting study, and probably the most interesting and I think exciting finding was that children that come to Ways for Change are on both sides of the extreme of how their bodies respond to stress. One is that we see children coming into the program that are always in fight or flight. So it's the children that you bump into them and they turn around and want to punch you or shout at you. So they're always in this I'm ready for action mode. And then we get children that come into the program that flatlines almost. So they're so used to crime and violence, and it's so normalized to them that they see something bad happen on the street and they can go and sleep without thinking about it. Or there's a gang shooting happening right in front of them, and they can come to the program and say to the coach, I'm feeling happy today. So they're flatlining, their emotions are almost nowhere. So we've got children that come in to the program on both ends of the spectrum, and neither of them obviously are healthy. You want to be able to do both. And at the end of the 12-month program with us, it seems like children who are shut down can take more risks. So children who've got an overly stimulated or used parasympathetic have actually started using the sympathetic. So those are the children that's maybe too scared to say how they feel, or don't even want to go into the water, and all of a sudden they taking risks, and they can say to a coach, today I'm angry, or I'm not happy, or I fought with someone. And also on the other side of the spectrum is children that come into the program who are more likely to be in fight or flight. They've actually learned the skills to stop and think and do a take 5 before they respond, before they turn around and want to eat something. So it was quite nice to see how the program seems to be able to give children skills to deal with difficult situations and to be resilient, irrespective of how they've learned to deal with difficult situations. So it was a really interesting study that we did. It was on a very small scale. It was obviously a pilot to first measure the tool, to assess if the tool is age and culture appropriate. So we've rolled it out much larger this year, but this was some of the pilot findings, which was quite interesting. Yeah, and I think that's it from my side. I've put our details there, and I'm sure, Guy, you're welcome to share this presentation, and people have got our details if they want to contact us. Let's say stop sharing.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Nicci. Really appreciate it. It was a really informative and also inspiring presentation. And also it's great to hear from one of your coaches too. So thank you for sharing the video. Just I have a lot of background noise in my house, so I'm not going to speak much longer. I'm now going to just welcome Gerry Gerhardt. He's going to speak. He represents Bomb Combat, but he's coming to us from Germany. So that's one of the advantages of having webinars, is that we can bring people from all over the world. But of course, Gerry has been working for a very long time in South Africa. So I'm going to hand over to Gerry. It's the session is now yours, and we'll give Gerry an opportunity to do his presentation, and then we'll have comments and questions for both of the speakers after that. So over to you, Gerry.
Thank you, Guy, and hello to everybody in South Africa and in Germany and Korea, wherever you're listening from and watching from. I feel honored to speak after such a nice lead-in from Nicci, and I was actually surprised but also honored to been asked to speak about youth resilience. And while our organization focuses on a lot of developmental work and a lot of psychosocial work, and we're focusing on some form of martial arts therapy, similar to surf therapy, similar to attracting factors for the youth, especially in the Cape Flats. I thought about resilience in a little bit more detail, because resilience is actually not one of our focus points. We're focusing on pathways, behaviors that are leading towards resilience. And it was actually quite a nice task for me myself to find our niche in where do we actually fit into resilience. And my presentation, I think, is very much geared towards how do we bridge what actually happens in our program, and what do we see and what do we get as a feedback from the ground, from the community, about their resilient behavior, their resilient developments, as well as what's the academic picture towards resilience, because that is one of the things we try to bridge in our organization as well. The connection, or sometimes unfortunately disconnection, between practice and reality and academia as a knowledge hub. So I hope I'm going to be able to take you a little bit along this journey, and I'm also going to have a few co-presenters similar to Nicci. So it's nice to see that we don't just share the passion for sport and a similar approach to using sport as a therapeutic and healing framework, but also that we have similar ideas on sharing the voices of our community when they are put upon us and channeled through us. And I actually liked one of the features in your presentation also, when you showed the surfer greeting. And I would like to use this as a start for everybody to quickly review and reflect a little bit what resilience means to you. And one of the things that we do very often dealing with martial arts, we do with the embodiment of emotions. So we use our body, martial arts, the art of fighting, as an expression tool. We use it as an expression for feelings and for emotions, and for certain states of mood and mind. And I would just like to give you about 20 to 30 seconds to close your eyes, and I invite you all to do that. And think of yourself as a resilient person, and what makes you resilient. It usually takes a little bit of practice. Please keep your eyes closed. And now I want you to not only think of yourself as a resilient person, but I want you to try to present yourself and to display your own body as resilience. Use your own body, stand up, stay sitting, lay down, whatever you want to do. Nobody sees it, it's just for yourself. And display with your entire body how you look as a resilient person. I'm sure if you had a mirror, or if you would have some form of a self-recording of your of your features, you would actually get quite a nice reflection, quite a nice insight. And it's a task that we actually did last week with some of our coaches, and some interesting thoughts actually came up, and a nice discussion came around. And we tried to gear a little bit in this presentation on what can we embody resilience? How can we embody and how can we express resilience through the tools that are given to us? And maybe we're going to do this exercise or this thought experiment at the end of this presentation again, and have maybe a little different understanding of resilience and how we can display it with our body. I am going to share my screen now with all of you as well. And I hope that works. If not, please give me some form of indication if you cannot see what I'm showing.
It is working. I can see your PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, guys. As mentioned already, you know, I'm representing an organization called Born Combat, Good Fight. We're operating already for 7 years in the field of violence prevention and violence intervention. And our main goal is basically to channel aggressive impulses and violent behavior into pro-social channels. And the main tool that we're using for this is martial arts. And this can be a therapeutic process, this can be a healing process, and it can also just generally be an empowering or developmental process in the journey for everybody to learn something about themselves and to develop certain skills that are very often related to resilience. And what we are mainly doing is focusing on a selected group of adolescents, because very often they are the at-risk learners, not just for being the perpetrators or the witnesses or the victims of violence, but also because that's where we're going to have a very high level of effectiveness in still shaping and changing behavior. Their behavior has manifested very often, and we have a very good feedback loop, generally through the community, through teachers or through school counselors, to refer some of their learners or some of the adolescents to us. So we have a general intervention group where we're going to work specifically with the reduction of aggressive behavior. And for the kids that are actually having a little bit of a bigger enjoyment in the sport, and that feel that this is something that they would actually like in terms of the group environment. After a few years of being in the intervention group, they're moving on towards a mentorship group that goes a little bit beyond this official framework. And with this, we're going to do different sporting activities, mostly centered around martial arts, but also, as you can see in this image here, around hiking and just generally connectivity to nature and reflecting body, mind, and environment. In addition to this, we do different community activations or community coaching workshops and events, as you can see in one of the open streets in Mitchell's Plain, or trying to foster talent. If some of our participants in the program, they're quite talented in the sports that they're choosing in martial arts, and we try to foster this in allowing them to grow their competency and display their talent in their sport. And bringing the activities of organization a little bit towards the purpose and the origin. I'm sure everybody that has a bit of a better understanding of the social environment in Cape Town is aware that violence is omnipresent, and yeah, it's almost no day where you can't open a newspaper or go onto your newsfeed on your phone and you will always see some form of incident of violence. And we took this as an initiative and as an anchor point, as a hook for us to say, this is a very difficult topic to deal with. And those are very essential skills directly geared towards the survival of people, and especially of young people. Because these young people, they often experience this from the early stages of childhood, and they have such a high exposure rate to very traumatic experiences related to violence that it almost becomes normalized. It becomes a normal option to behave. It becomes a normal option to witness. It becomes almost an intergenerational trauma that this is the way it is. This is the modus operandi, and this is the way it is in the Cape Flats. This is the lifestyle. And as you can see in this image, for example, that's why I chose it as a display. With this comes a certain display of body. As you can see, these young kids, very innocent, looking into the camera and just doing different gang signals because it's a part of the social environment. It is absolutely normatized and it's almost inseparable. So we look at the different parts of how people or how adolescents, especially young people, grow into this. And it's interchangeable. Sometimes initially they're usually the victims or the witnesses of violence and aggression. And very often they also become perpetrators. Because again, and research has shown this due to a desensitization towards violence as normal behavior, due to a lack of parental role modeling or absentee parents, and also because of just a poor socioeconomic and resource scarce environment. There's a lot of pressures around them that just deals towards and leads towards this acceptance of violence as an appropriate tool of interaction and possibly of altercation or to deal with conflict. And this adoption of violent behavior as an attractive option to exercise control is something that we are perceiving as a very, very toxic understanding of how to interact with your community and with your peers. But it's still in a lot of the research that is out there, also especially onto the Cape Town environment, it just shows that this seems to be the perceived reality. And on top of this, looking into a little bit broader structure with the structural inequalities that South Africa has faced, that there's a lot of internalization of negative images towards oneself. And you saw this already, or you see this already with a lot of learners in adolescents when you drive around the Cape Flats, and if you interact with them, they sometimes see themselves as gangsters, or they see themselves sometimes as delinquents. And so this is a negative image that they internalize, that they don't just see it as something positive, they understand there's an anti-social aspect to it, but it is still a viable alternative of becoming and growing into a certain identity. And we look at this from a very Fanonian approach of vertical violence due to structural inequalities, due to scarcity of resources, and due to the prolonged oppression that South Africa has experienced. This vertical violence being placed on these vulnerable communities turned horizontally, either inwards, self-harm, such as substance abuse, such as actual suicide, suicidal ideation behavior, mental health discrepancies, depression, trauma, as well as putting out the violence comes down vertically, horizontally towards others, towards peers, towards a very low impulse control, and towards a frequent behavior of aggression and violence and fighting. And this is exactly the intercept where we as Bomb Combat try to step in, where we cannot change a lot of the experience of vertical violence, and we cannot change the entire social environment. That is a very macro task, and it is a huge effort that is societal and generational. But what we are aiming to do is taking some of the most vulnerable adolescents in our communities that are also possibly future damaging behaviors and future damaging perpetrators, and try to use the behavioral shift at exactly this experience of trauma and vertical violence, and not let it go out towards horizontal violence, not let it become turned inwards, not let it be turned outwards with your family, your neighbors, your intimate partners, and so on. And that's where I think I'm gonna make a shortcut and look at the concept of resilience, because resilience is almost this psychosocial silver bullet that we can use to overcome this intercept, experiencing violence, experiencing trauma, and trying to deal with this in a positive way, in a positive manner. And so I looked a little bit and took this as a task to look at the resilience research, because we focus on behavioral outcomes. Now, okay, do our participants reduce their aggressive outcomes? Do our participants increase their pro-social behavior? Do our participants increase in their concentration skills in the classroom? Those are usually our M&E focus. And now looking into resilience, I found actually some form of discrepancy in the academic research and in the publications that have been coming across over the last week. And the majority of the research actually is criticized for using samples predominantly from the global north and using a Eurocentric framework, and that describes resilience as a universal construct that is everywhere and for everybody the same. So once achieved resilience, you're going to have some form of an ability to better deal with your life. And it almost is then being used as a universal construct that is very similar to coping. But other research has pointed out, for example, that is a problem, that people have an ill definition of this resilience factor. And especially in the South African context, they have stated a lack of appropriate measurements when looking at a review of studies dealing with and measuring and trying to assess resilience in South African communities. And so then looking at the resilience and what are the common denominators of resilience throughout different researchers, a group of researchers from University of Hong Kong identified 3 critical conditions for the development of resilience, and seeing resilience as some form of a process. And the first factor being growing up in a distressing life conditions and demanding societal conditions, meaning significant threats or severe adversities that are experienced. And in the South African context, everybody can surely agree this is definitely the case, almost for every single learner, for every single child, for every single adult that lives in South Africa. As a second condition, they are saying that there needs to be an availability of protective factors that includes internal protective assets, such as intelligence, for example, or external resources, such as a functioning family, good social services, or pro-social activities in your environment. And these protective factors should counteract the effect of risk factors. And the third aspect, or the third condition, being the achievement of positive adaptations despite the experience of adversity. Meaning just because I have dealt with adversity and with trauma, I might still internalize it, even though I'm going to be able to function in society. So the positive adaptation towards trauma, towards this experience, towards a non-adoption of depression is a very important key factor. And that's sometimes not that easy to assess, especially with the quantitative, often positivistic measures that academia uses. And then upon further research, I actually found a very fitting definition from Unger. And I find a few things very fitting about what he said. And that is that in the context of exposure to significant adversity, resilience is both the capacity of individuals to navigate their way towards psychological, social, cultural, and physical resources. And the second aspect is that it's important to be geared towards their well-being, and including the capacity to individually and collectively negotiate those resources to be provided and experienced in a culturally meaningful way. So including here two things. The social environment is an important factor. Being resilient in South Africa is definitely not the same thing as being resilient in Germany. And the second aspect is to navigate your resources available towards you. And that's why I actually find the picture of the compass quite fitting, because when fostering resilience, we have come up with the idea to say we need to provide a certain compass towards the life of our participants when we actually want to gear towards resilience. So we focus on non-behaviors of aggression, better behaviors of pro-social interaction, and better concentration capacities. And those are all factors leading towards resilience. But what is the actual key factor towards building resilience is the navigation of resources that they have available. And so from this perspective, we have the idea of what do we want to do? We want to change the image of this violent and gang-inspired, especially masculinity, as a tough and strong young male or adolescent, and that perpetuates a subculture. And also they're represented by this image here, towards this image of this. We have the fighting warrior versus the martial artist. So we have a warrior approach, and we have a guardian approach. A guardian is technical, has maybe a similar set of skills, but he chooses his fights, or she chooses her fights, and he chooses to adapt this towards something that is pro-social and not just anti-social for a short-term reward. So in terms of our methodology, we try to change the perception of violence and aggression, as well as the relationship patterns that we have with others. And we try to navigate this with the exposure to martial arts values as some form of a lifestyle and some form of a mindset. And by this formula, we believe that we have an actual change in behavior towards pro-social interaction with others. And this is not a short-term process. This is a guiding process, similar to all types of development. So that meaning resilience is not something that I achieve once and have it set. This is an ongoing process that is going to go like waves. A very nice analogy with the ocean that Nicci mentioned earlier on. This is an ocean-like process, and therefore it needs to be guided and navigated either by your internal skills or by the resources around you with a pro-social environment that we try to offer. Looking at the actual activities that we're doing, we're dealing with martial arts and mostly with grappling. Martial arts is a very, very broad field between weapon use, between striking, as well as grappling. We focus mostly on grappling because, as you can see in these pictures, if you have not been exposed to a lot of martial arts, this is I think these pictures represent very nicely adversity. You can see this adversity in a sporting and a regulated and therefore safe space, and within a context that both agree with, or everybody involved agrees with. So whilst Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ, our martial art of choice, equals dealing with adversity, is therefore our navigation tool towards resilience. And there's a certain strategy that you have to apply in grappling, and we believe that it transfers very well into life. And this is the narrative of the different belts and the different knowledge gradings that you're going to gain within this martial arts of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and within grappling, and goes from white to blue to purple to brown to black. And it is, firstly, you survive. Then you start to defend. And once you have started to survive, to defend, you start to escape and to reverse, learning how to control, and then to submit. Submit is surely something that is relative to the sport. Submit can also be transferred towards attack towards chase and opportunity. But rather than just switching and swapping between survive, okay, just get by, and then there's some opportunity, I'm going to dive on it, and now I face any form of adversity, I'm not going to be able to take this opportunity to fullest because I have not learned the step of control. So in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we teach everything step by step. First, learn how to just survive, how to not get completely swamped by your opponent. Learn how to consciously defend attacks. Then learn how to escape from their control and reverse the control situation. Then you're going to exert control yourself. And only then, when you're absolutely sniper sharp, you're going to set your submission in, and then it's going to be over. You're going to be the winner. You have taken the opportunity and you proved your skill. And while this is very nicely in balance as a step-by-step approach, the reality looks a bit more complicated. And the survival skills that we're teaching are rather very little, because we don't want to teach people to constantly be in survival mode. We also don't want to constantly teach them to submit and to just go for it and to chase and to hunt down opportunities. It needs to be a much, much more balanced approach towards control being the main aspect. And while we all start with the survival skills and the survival activities and tactics to apply to our emotional regulation, it is important that we're going to take this step by step, and we are effectively taking our learners with them. And so I find this transfer between the essential strategies of grappling and how we transferred into everyday life, I found this actually quite helpful. And not just for myself, but also I learned this from a lot of our participants and some of our coaches that have told me a similar thing when speaking to them about what have you learned from martial arts, what have you learned in the process, or how do you think this made you tougher, how do you think this made you stronger, more resilient. And very seldomly, it's actually I can submit people. It is more often the aloofness I can control, it is my decision. But again, you're going to see in the different stages of programming, in the different stages of exposure towards these values of martial arts, people are going to move between survive and submit, fight or flight, or freeze. And now we're going to give them the tools and the resources, so to speak, that were also pointed out by the research, that are supposed to be navigated. And this navigation can only happen if you have a good understanding of the entire spectrum and how the entire spectrum is related to one another. And as I told you initially, I also would like to share some, not just my take on how martial arts is contributing towards resilience and how our program is, but I would like to share the voice of some of our coaches. This is Cole. Some of you might know him because on the picture here on the top, the bigger one where he's choking me, this was actually at the Savi conference, I think in 2017. And we gave a little workshop. Cole was still a learner at the Milton Spain School of Skills there. Same thing in the bottom, that was after his first 3 months, and now he's a coach in our program. And I am going to click on a new share and hope to be able to show you this video now. Please let me know again if you cannot hear or cannot see the video.
I don't have sound, Gerry. I'm not sure why not.
Excuse me, what did you say, Guy?
I don't hear sound. I'm not sure about anybody else.
Okay, that would be unfortunate. Let me try.
Okay. If just other people can confirm, that might just be my settings. Lamise, can you confirm? Can you hear? Someone else is saying no sound.
No sound.
Okay.
Okay, then let me try to play it with the presentation. Because I tried to double it up also after the first one, because I have 3 people. Let's hope this works. I see the screen still, but still. Sound happening?
Unfortunately not.
That is unfortunate. Then let me try to select the speaker differently and see if that happens now. Let's try this one here. It would be very unfortunate if you would not hear that. Still no sound?
We're not seeing anything. We're just seeing some video clips. I mean, pictures of video clips, but not actually getting any video, unfortunately.
That is unfortunate. Then, rather than trying to figure out the technology any further, I would suggest it. That's unfortunate, but you, obviously now I'm gonna give you the video material and maybe you can share. And I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna try to take my earphones out. My IT assistants tell me, and try it maybe one last time with an alternative speaker. How's that?
We can hear but can't see.
Okay, then let's hear but not see. Then let's try. That's interesting. This one here. Can you see now?
Perfect. We can hear and see.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
Yeah, thank you to Marie.
So I just want to accept martial arts saved me out of all that things. You know, I was very aggressive. I was very not disrespectful, but I was very naughty. Never wanted to listen. I was very hyperactive. I couldn't sit still and grasp the things. And I started doing martial arts during a program on the school. I was very hyperactive. I loved to do physical things. So as we go on the journey, the school gave me an opportunity to do martial arts, resilience and so. And I've learned that, you know, I was very excited. That made me happy inside. Always when people made me angry, you know, I could have always take out my frustration on the mats and, you know, just grapple and do things. And it was very good for me because I've learned how to control my mind, to think sharp, to stay my mind sharp. And for me, that always in fights, you know, I didn't actually knew. I was always I could fight anyone, and, you know, but deep inside of me, it was a little bit, I was just a little bit scared, you know, people pick on me and things. And when I started doing martial arts and learned how to defend yourself and how to properly fight, it was for me I don't have to do it, you know, because I know how to do it. And it started me respecting, when I also learned to respect as well as, you know, I was grappling with my partner. And I had a nice bond with him because martial arts bring friendship and bond and bring love and peace. And we trained, and that is how I started, you know, also you will never also win, and that is how you learn by each and every one you will learn from someone else as well, like he's learning from you. So I've been going on with martial arts in my life since the age of 14 when I was in high school, still the age of 21 I am now. And I really appreciate what I'm still doing for myself and what work I put in. And, you know, martial arts says to me, and what my blessing is, and I just want to pass it on to the community, where I am now. I'm in Creighton, a small hometown where I grew up, you know, outside world, you know, outside of Cape Town. So what I'm doing right now here in my city is I'm training a few children, you know. What my city just needs is more sports, you know. Sports is life. Sports is love and peace. And what I'm doing here, I've been working with the children, what I've learned, I'm feeding the community. You know, boys that always have nothing to do, but you know, they are blessed, they don't have guidance, things like that. So what I came here and I just started teaching the children that grew up in front of me, the younger boys, and I've been working now with 10 to 15 boys. I've been working with them, and they love it, and they're so addicted to it because I've learned them how to be disciplined. I've learned them how to respect and to accept things they don't want to accept, that is good in life for them. And so I'm just doing the best I can in life now and feeding my community what I've learned. And you know, people didn't give up on me, so I won't give up on other people, and I'll always stick to those words. So my community needs more sports, and right around the world we need to do best and feed the community with martial arts, and that's what I do. And bomb combat as well. So bomb combat is, as you can see, what I love. So I've been with bomb combat all these years, and bomb combat away from my life. Like I explained, so that's actually bomb combat that it's good for me. And today I am a coach of bomb combat, and I'm making future coaches as well in bomb combat. So bomb combat, when you fight, and choose your fight. You see, like I explained all the things about myself, bomb combat set me free. So I set out for combat.
Yeah, that being Cole, I'm sure you're all quite charmed by him because he had quite a nice way of expressing himself, at least in my point of view. And I think bring it back towards what we spoke about resilience without actually addressing it primarily. It's one of the element of survival that he initially found himself in when it came to constantly being exposed to it, wanting to fight, wanting to prove himself. This survival skill, this toxic toughness that he was adapting to, because that was the only thing he knew and how to prove himself. And giving him some form of resources internally, but also externally by the pure structure of the training, of the bonding process that he spoke to, he could activate and had the availability of these resources to protect himself actually consciously from not fighting. He spoke about bomb combat, the good fight, when to fight. He chooses his fights. Now he fights in the ring. He fights for sporting competitions, and he shares his knowledge with his community. So exercising control and giving him the tools to navigate. But he said he has been with us for 7 years. So since 2014, that is a long process, and there's ups and downs. There's difficult adversities that he experienced over the years, where you're more able to be in control and less able to be in control. And I think his first sentence was, I accepted martial arts in my life. And I find this very fitting because he says it almost like a religious phrase, and he chose to do that because it's some form of guidance towards him and a compass that guides him when there's maybe nothing much to fall back in terms of resources. And going on to something slightly different, speaking to another one of our community coaches, a little bit of a younger coach. He speaks to the mental process that training and the martial arts exposure brought him towards. His name is Isaac, and he's a community coach from Mitchell's Plain.
Okay, cool. So what martial arts has taught me in my life is, how to, not just how to defend myself and, how to fight and kick, throw high kicks. It's taught me also how to be aware of my surroundings. And not only my surroundings, my opponent's surroundings. And to be aware of myself and to face myself. And combat has taught me a whole lot of mental work up here. I realize that most people do martial arts because they probably had some mental tragedy, and that is where they fall back to martial arts. Well, I'll say the part that martial arts or combat made me strong was the time I started training kids. Just because that, especially when I went to gym with God, I realized that everyone works on different bases. Not everyone works in your pace, not everyone works on that person's pace. Everyone works in different paces, which taught me how to be more patient. And that is why I'm going to put my strong point, because I was never a patient person. He doesn't do it, fine, I'm good. And it taught me how to be patient too, how to be patient with the kids, how to be patient with the parents, how to be patient with a lot of things, and not just the kids, and even my daily activities, how to sit down and just be calm and just do what you're told and do what is needed.
So adding towards what Isaac said now, is the internal process, the process of learning patience and doing a lot of the mind work. Even though he does physical work, and he says nonchalantly said, yeah, knowing how to punch and how to kick, it's not the prime activity for him. It's that mental process that he highlights so much, this internal resource that he can rely on, the skill. And he actually asked me to, and he sent me another video to show how he teaches resilience and something that embodies resilience within his training. And so he cut this video together of one of the trainings that he does during the Corona pandemic, where we obviously have to go to public spaces. Or here there's a private space in the neighborhood, and the teaching of patience in kids that he was talking about. And I'm sure you can imagine, and you're surely invited to try this yourself, how quickly you're going to experience a grasp of resilience and bonding when you do this type of training. I think a 5-minute plank is a very good example of resilience and a very good reflection towards resilience. As a third and final voice that I would like to share with you is a take from one of our first participants from our first cohort. His name is Lee. He's still with us. He was one year before Cole. I think he's with us since 8 years. And he's also a community coach from Bonneville, and he spoke and he shares a little bit on how martial arts was a guide towards his life, and more so on the spectrum of how it might impact his community.
Martial arts has taught me a lot when it comes to certain problems, certain challenges in my life. Martial arts has taught me to have a disciplined mindset at work, not only in the training. Martial arts has made me stronger, not physically but mentally as well. And it gave me purpose, it gave me the strength and investment into any situation that came my way. For example, someone tries to fight or create animosity.
Hi guys.
Oh, sorry. Something went wrong here. Let's go back to the. That is not audio. Sorry.
Just to hurt others.
I think
martial arts teaches you how to handle.
Sorry about that.
Especially situation like that, where someone is actually trying hard to hurt your feelings or just trying to hurt you personally. And it's taught you, teaches you self-respect and discipline when it comes to things like that. Knowing that you can just push it away one side and not think about it at all, because you are in such a mindset. And what martial arts has done, you avoid situations, especially situations like that. Also, like if someone confronts you or a group of your friends or in a situation, because in our community and in our area, there's a lot of violence. And some people use violence to protect themselves in the sense of not protect themselves, but use it as just to hurt others, because all they just want to do is use violence and they don't know how to bring down a situation. So yeah, that's martial arts has taught me. And living in a colored community, it's tough because there's a lot of gangsterism, there's a lot of drugs. So there's three things you need to become. It's either a gangster or it's either a drug addict, or you become just a normal human being who is willing to strive to be better than the two things that are there. It's not there as a choice. Some people are there forced into it. Some people are going through a lot of problems and they feel that drugs is a way out, which is not true. And if there was rehabilitation for martial arts for people that are struggling with gangsterism and drugs itself, you can literally use martial arts as a rehabilitation. You can use sports as a rehabilitation. So what I would like for my community to take out is the gangsterism and the drugs. So yeah, that's basically what I would love. More sporting places, more fields, more parks, more swimming parks, outdoor gyms. There's not much where I'm from, and It depends on which side you stay with, they have the better ones. Because I look all the way around Cape Town, there's Sea Point, there's Milnerton, there's you know, different places on the bottom. They all have decent gymming equipment. And by us, it's like probably used already, all used and just messed up and damaged. But yes, that is definitely what I would like. Once again, my name is Lucas. I'm from South Africa, Cape Town, Portugal. I'm 24 years old and I'm blessed.
Okay, with that, I put my earphones back in and would actually like to finish with this interpretation and invite you again after what you've heard about resilience and maybe the reflection what our coaches have been saying towards what the scientific definitions are putting out there. Maybe close your eyes again for another 20 seconds and try to embody yourself again as a resilient person. So try to think of yourself, what are your resilient qualities? And how would you like to display your resilience with your own body? And for some of you, maybe it is a different outcome than initially. And I think that's the main factor of resilience. It's a dynamic process. It's like a wave, as Nicci said very nicely early on. And it's important that we're going to give our youth the tools to navigate this. And these tools and research points towards this, and our experiences point to that, is that we provide those resources. And yeah, I'm going to hope that we're going to contribute towards all of that.
Thanks so much, Gerry. It were really inspiring and also really kind of informative presentation, both you and Nicci kind of providing really excellent theories of change, kind of taking us through the entire journey of someone who joins your program and how it ends up, how this person ends up at the end of it, but also explaining the different steps that come with it. So really inspiring. So thank you so much for making the time to present in this webinar. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time for comments or questions. We're supposed to finish at 2, but I'm just going to give an extra 5 minutes and push to 2:05 because we have lost a few people already. So now's the opportunity just to, if anybody would like to raise any questions or comments. This session is being recorded and we are going to post it on SaferSpaces. So if you need to go back and get any of the information, you'll find it on SaferSpaces by next week. But right now, if there are any comments or questions, please, can you raise your hand? Use the raise the hand function. If not, just put on your mic and say, I have a question or a comment. All right, I don't see any hands at the moment, but I also was very encouraged by the number of people who attended this particular event, and I see a number of people coming in on their phones. We have a couple of questions in the chat, just to sort of say from people going, they found this very inspiring, which I absolutely agree, and that they would like more of these. So we are having the agreement we've reached with GIZ is that there was some money that was allocated for travel in the budget for SaferSpaces to have meetings, but of course we can't do that. So we're actually using that funding for more webinars. So if anybody has any ideas on webinars or is with organizations that you think would be quite nice to talk about, please do make contact with us. You can contact SaferSpaces, just go to the website and email SaferSpaces, or you can email me. My email address is guy.lam@uct.ac.za. But if you can't write that down, that's fine. Just go and look at SaferSpaces and click on contact, and we'll get your email and we'll be able to respond. Since there aren't any questions, I see, I'm just going to give Nicci and Gerry just final words before wrapping up. So Nicci, if you've got some final comments, and then we'll hand over to Gerry. So over to you, Nicci.
Cool, thanks, Guy. Yeah, like very
You're
quick.
muted.
Oh, I'm muted still. Is that better? Oh, you're going to mount. Okay, cool. So I
no, you're fine now.
Oh, fine, cool. Just very quickly want to respond to the 1 or 2 comments. I saw someone just asked about the physiological measure we use, and if we also use self-reports. We do. So we don't see physiological measure as the only measure. We see it as complementary to self-report and other qualitative measures. And then someone also asked how we paid for this. We obviously funded by foundations and grant-making institutions abroad as well as in South Africa. So we funded quite widely by organizations in Europe and South Africa. Yeah, so all our activities are funded and it's a free service to children. And I saw someone said they want to come and visit. They're more than welcome. You can just get my email address at the end of the presentation, and we always welcome visitors, especially to observe our program and engage with our coaches, not so much with our children. We know they're vulnerable, but with the coaches, we're always open to do that. And then I think the last thing I want to respond to, someone asked about how can they access the service, or how do we upscale or scale this kind of service? Again, we've got a program team that look at expanding or including referrals from other organizations into our program. So you're more than welcome to email me, info@waysforchange.org, but it's at the end of the presentation, and just engage with our program manager to look at if the community where you are at, logistically, does it make sense, and is it the target group that we're working with? So please feel free to email me for that. And then, yeah, I guess the last thing I wanted to say is I was quite inspired also by my colleague's presentation. Just the one thing that struck me is resilience, what a difficult concept that is. I tried to stay away from it, and he dug deeper into it, which I found very inspiring. It's really a difficult topic, I guess, because it's so multifaceted and layered. So thanks for having us, Guy. I really enjoyed it. It's always nice to learn from just listening to others.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Just Nicci and Gerry, just keep an eye out on the chat. There's requests for email addresses and those kind of things. So you can have a look there. So Gerry, the final comments to you, and then we're going to bring the session to a close.
One of the first things I would like to say is thank you for providing this platform and for providing this input, because I think it's a great opportunity to get a discussion going in times where we have to fall back into online interaction. And unfortunately, we're excluding a lot of people because of lack of resources and lack of availability. And so my message would be actually that related to one of the questions, how to scale up. And I think one of the starting points is you providing this platform, us connecting, and as a next step is us making this happen. And yeah, everybody who's interested in trying to make something happen, we normally do this in form of a workshop initially. We can work in almost any space that is safe, or we can try to create a safe space. Would be to, yeah, you can email us at bombcombatnpo, nothing in between, @gmail.com, or maybe get the infos from Guy. And I would even like to offer to email every one of you to say, hey, if you're interested, we can make a workshop happen, bring our coaches over, and maybe exchange and get the resources and the protective factors to promote resilience to where they're most needed. So thank you for providing the macro stepping stone, and thank you for allowing me to speak and share.
It's a pleasure, and thank you both. Brilliant presentations. And for those of you, both Bomb Combat and Ways for Change are profiled on SaferSpaces with contact details. Not specifically Nicci and Gerry's contact details, but you will be able to make contact with them, those organizations, through SaferSpaces if you don't have access to the chat after this meeting. But as I say, we're going to post the presentation, the recording on SaferSpaces, so all the information will be there as well. So once again, thank you to everybody. We didn't think we'd get much of a turnout given it was a Friday and running into a long weekend in South Africa, but thank you so much for making the time. I thought this was a really wonderful webinar, and everybody have a wonderful weekend and join us again for our next webinar. Watch SaferSpaces and our email distribution. You will get details on the next webinar coming up early next week. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.